Welcome to Descent into Madness, an audiobook by TeaPK Adventures. This tale began as a collaborative journey with members of the TeaPK Discord community guiding our nameless wanderer through Myrkyn's temple. Together, they chose paths, weighed decisions, and uncovered secrets hidden within each shadowed step. This is their story. Episode 0, Prologue. The year is 349 LC, an era marked by the quiet rule of the Luminary Court, three ancient high elven families who hold dominion over Eldoria, a vast and storied continent in the world of the Geata. Within the borders of their empire, the world is called Aetherius, meaning pure, a name meant to reflect the empire's vision of control, order, and dominion. But beyond the influence, the Geata is far older and far wilder than the Luminary Court chooses to remember. From their gleaming capital of the Celestial Spire, the Luminary Court governs Eldoria with an air of detachment, their power waning the further one travels from their gilded towers. Nestled deep within the Heartland County, Cindral's Rest is a quiet village far from bustling trade routes and the Empire's watchful gaze. Though centrally located within the county, its isolation runs deeper than mere distance, a place where the stories of the old world linger longer than any news from the new. Here, the people lead simple lives, hemmed in by the Veil of Mourning, an ancient forest whose name alone stirs unease. Dark and vast, the Veil is a place of whispered warnings, a natural boundary between the known and unknown. Beneath its tangled canopy lies the Temple of Myrkyn, a sanctuary of twisted fates and lurking terrors, dedicated to a god of the Discordian pantheon. The villagers pray to Nocturna, the goddess of shadows and reflection, for quiet protection as they navigate their lives. But even her subtle guidance feels distant when the mist thickens and the air grows cold. The Veil, however, has a voice of its own, a silent pool that has drawn wanderers, seekers, and the desperate into its depths. Few return. Those who do are never the same. For generations, Cindral's Rest has lived in uneasy coexistence with the forest. The name of Myrkyn, god of twisted fates, is rarely spoken, but his temple's presence hums faintly in the bones of those who know the stories too well. And now, once again, the forest waits. Another soul stands at its edge, drawn by whispers of loss and the faint promise of answers buried in the shadows. Into the mist. The forest loomed dark and tangled at the edge of a dying sunset. Shadows stretched long over the narrow trail as a lone figure approached, the eyes fixed on the path ahead. The air was thick, with the scent of earth and rotten leaves, mingling with a crisp bite of oncoming nightfall. They knew this forest well, knew it from whispered warnings, campfire tales, and most vividly from the night their brother disappeared. He had chased a wounded elk into these woods, its blood marking a trail through the undergrowth. The memory was seared into their mind, the flash of his determined grin, the rustle of branches snapping in his wake. He had been young, headstrong, and driven by the thrill of the hunt, but the forest had swallowed him whole. He never returned. Their father went after him the next morning, desperate to find his son. Days passed before he returned, stumbling out of the trees with wild eyes and trembling hands. The man who had once taught them to track the wind and read the stars was broken, his mind fractured. He spoke of a temple hidden deep within the woods, a place twisted by unnatural forces, one dedicated to Myrkyn, the god of twisted fates and lurking terrors, where the lines between reality and madness blur. His words were a tangled web of warnings and half-muttered truths. The secret the temple holds in, I know it's that. But I can't go back. Not again. His hollow stare and trembling voice hinted at horrors too great to describe. Over the weeks that followed, he retreated further into himself, until the man they had known was little more than a shadow. The answers he sought, the answers they all needed, remained trapped within the temple, locked behind his fear. Now it was their turn. Alone at the forest's edge, they felt the weight of both loss and duty pressing heavily on their shoulders. The mist hung thick between the trees, curling like ghostly fingers around the gnarled branches. Shadows shifted unnaturally in the undergrowth, as though the forest itself were alive and watching. Somewhere beyond this veil of fog lay the temple of Myrkyn, the place that had stolen their brother, shattered their father, and promised answers buried deep within its shadowed walls. The lone wanderer, nameless and faceless to all but their memories, took one last breath. The world behind them felt distant, almost unreal, as if it had already let them go. Turning back was no longer an option. With slow, steady steps, they entered the forest. The mist swallowed them whole. Thank you for listening to this episode of Descent into Madness, produced by TeaPK Adventures. The journey continues and the shadows ahead grow deeper with each step. Written and voiced by Tom Pickering, artwork provided by Zoe Bars, music by Kolinsky and Campfire Joe. Follow TeaPK Adventures on Discord, Spotify, YouTube or Patreon to uncover what lies beyond the veil. Until next time, tread carefully and beware the lurking terrors.